And so I'm very, very honored to be able to introduce our first speaker, Radhika, Srimati Radhika Manchanda Didi from, well, California, but now she's actually with her Grace Shamarani Didi in Miami. So she's coming in like mid-afternoon. Radhika is probably pretty well known, I would think, amongst devotee circles, as she was born into a family of Prabhupada disciples. Her mother, Manjari Dasi, was named by Srila Prabhupada. And then her grandfather, Bhagavan Das, and grandmother Krishna Bhamani, I think have been around for quite a while. She herself actually came to Srila Gurudeva in 1998. And she received Harinam in 1999, Diksha in 2005. And she does so many things. I mean, first of all, she's an amazing kirtaniya, an amazing dancer, just so steeped in the Vraja mood. She's been living in India pretty much for the past 7 years, working on Srila Gurudev's Samadhi Mandir and working under Premananda Prabhu, as well as her Grace Shamarani Didi. She's had lovely association, although she's quite young. She's like an old soul with beautiful things to share. And Radhika Didi, you have up to an hour. Please take as much time as you would like. And if you want to intersperse any kirtan as you're talking, we are really looking forward to hearing your lovely Pushpanjali. And I can cue you when you're getting close to, like I can cue you when you're 5 minutes out or 3 minutes out if you want, if you're approaching the hour. But at this point, I'm going to ask you to unmute. If you're not unmuted, and I'm going to turn the Vyasa-san over to you. Haribol, welcome, and thank you.
Hare Krishna, Dandavad, Yashodanandan Prabhu, and Manini Didi. Thank you so much for hosting this beautiful platform and facilitating this space, which is actually like a mandir, because as we know, the temple is really where the Harikatha is. If there's so many temples, but they're empty, the temple is not there, but the temple is really where the Katha is. So thank you for creating this temple for us to gather and remember Srila Gurudev. It's so healing and so nourishing. I was just listening to some of the recent memories just before coming on this platform and thinking, oh, I have no qualification to speak on this platform. These devotees have so much realization of Gurudev, so much association, and are actually really disciples, which I'm not. But just like, you know, Gurudev used to say, just like the baby has the opportunity to say Gugu Gaga and get some encouragement and nourishment. So in that spirit, I am just offering you all my sincere pranam and thanking you so much for giving me the opportunity to remember the lotus feet of Srila Gurudev. So, Om Jnanat Mirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militanyena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah Vandeham Shri Guruvaram Shri Rupanuga Pravaram Vrajarasaраsikam cha Narayanam tam prapanam Shri Guru Charanam Bande Ramana Prishtaya Bhutale Rupanuga Bhaktidam cha Guru Di Narayanam Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripasindhavyacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So I'm still trying to figure out by what good fortune or how it happened that Srila Gurudev came into our lives just like a shooting star, and how magnificently and harmoniously and just like an expert conductor. It was amazing to witness how everybody's life before they met Gurudev and after they met Gurudev, it's like almost like I can't even like really remember what life was like before that moment, because it was a complete shift and change. And he came to inspire so many of Srila Prabhupada's disciples. I know that he re-inspired my whole entire family and gave so much love and affection and mercy to my grandparents, my mother, myself, um, and just reflecting on those years with Gurudev, the excitement, the joy, the magic. Um, it's like now those moments are even if we spent our whole life trying to digest, there's newer and deeper meanings. It's just an ocean of depth. So I met Srila Gurudev when I was just quite small, quite little. My mom said we're going to visit an elderly Vaishnav friend of Srila Prabhupada. And I had no idea, I was going to school at the ISKCON Gurukul, and, throughout my life, I had grown up looking at the Murti of Srila Prabhupada had always been such an important part of my life, just like a grandfather. And it was amazing how Gurudev came to the airport in Los Angeles, and he walked out of the airplane, and everybody was singing Namami Nandanandanam, and Gurudev was going like this with his finger, and so radiant and beautiful. And I looked at him and I looked at my mom, and it was like almost immediate. My mom had met him a little bit earlier, but she said to me, "Do you want him to be your Gurudev?" And immediately I was like, "Yes." And I went right up to him and I said, "Will you be my Gurudev?" And he just patted me on the head and said, "Well, certainly. And I just felt as if I had always known him. It was like that eternal kind of feeling of, um, of like an eternal knowing. And it was such a love at first sight. I just can't even describe how amazing it was to be like a kid and look around and see all the other kids my age sitting in these classes, this Harikatha of Gurudev, and just crying and crying and crying. And we have no idea what he's saying we have no realization of what he's saying. And yet we're just crying. That was the effect that Gurudev would have on everyone's heart, because he was so soft and so sweet, and he spoke to the essence of what bhakti is. He just got straight to the point. There was no beating around the bush. It was right to the essence of the heart of bhakti. And I remember that was one of the first thoughts that I had, actually, was that growing up in ISKCON, I had never heard my name, Radhika, so much. I'd never heard, besides when people were talking to me personally, I'd never heard my name. And then suddenly within 24 hours of meeting Gurudev, it was Srimati Radhika, Srimati Radhika, Srimati. Every word was Srimati Radhika, I was like, I've never heard my name. I remember hearing that one time, that what is the sweetest sound? And the sweetest sound is when someone is calling your name with love, right? So I remember thinking, the way Gurudev says these names, it's not like anything, that when regular people say. It's like when Gurudev says it, that relationship is there, and all of the ingredients of developing that relationship is also there. And so that was my first impression as a child, was who's this person who's saying my name with so much love? And then I remember we went to New Braj, and at that time Gurudev was giving katha twice a day. It was so beautiful. The mood was so beautiful. It was like completely like the closest thing that anyone could imagine to being in the spiritual world, because Gurudev is one person away from that entire realm. Like the person that we know, Gurudev, is there. And so he completely brought that reality, every step he took, everything he saw. The hill became Giriraj Govardhan, the peacocks, the flowers were blooming, there was so much harmony. Everybody was completely in love with Gurudev. It was like they had, been drowning. We'd all just been drowning in this ocean of samsara for how long. And then it was like you could just see all these, it was like Gurudev was whispering into seeds and then watching them grow. And it was so beautiful. So I remember we went up to New Braj, and it was time for me to get Harinam, because I just asked Gurudev for Harinam pretty much within like 5 minutes of meeting him. There was no examination or any of that. It was just like, and so so I went into the room, and he said, first he said he was talking to me about how Krishna is, our best friend, our only maintainer and protector. And then he said, where are you from? So I said, I'm from San Francisco. And then again, he asked me, where are you from? I said, I'm half Indian, I'm Punjabi, and I'm half American. And I kept giving all of these answers. And he said, no, you should always think, I am from Golok Vrindavan. Always, you should have this mood. So he was from the first moment planting this identity, this abhiman in our hearts, reflecting, our highest and purest self back to us. I think many of us had that experience. It's like you could be going through so many different things, and then you come in front of Gurudev, and Gurudev says, how are you? And everything just melts away. All of your layers, all of your anxieties, all your fears, everything just completely melts away, because his power and his energy is so effulgent, just like the sun, just like the brightest moon, the brightest sun. So he said, no, you should always think, I am from Goloka Vrindavan. So within the first week, suddenly it's like, and it was so amazing to witness that, to witness these small kids, even Gurudev would go up to the small children and ask them, what do you want? Do you want Vaikunta? No. Do you want to be a cowherd boy? No. Even the smallest child would know, I want to be a Paliyadasi of Srimati Radhika. So Gurudev implanted that mood in everyone's hearts. He implanted that greed. That was one of the main things that he would speak about, is that everything depends on this greed. What is the only price is greed, to have it. And he would give the example of a poor man that wants to marry Princess Diana, and say that, if you're thinking, oh, I'm not qualified, if you are poor and you want something, you don't think about your qualification, you run for it, you dive for it. And I was seeing how it was like coming in contact with Gurudev. He gave so much hope. He always said, don't be hopeless. He gave so much hope for attaining something that is so beyond our conception and completely inconceivable. He just reflected that. Who are you? And then he reflected that Krishna Seva Vasana in your heart, planting it as a seed and nurturing it with so much love through his Harikatha. That he would just say, completely forget about everything and come with me to Vrindavan in this 1 hour or this 1 month. And he would bring everyone there. And it reminds me also, my mom had a beautiful story once where she said to Gurudev, Gurudev, when I'm away from you, I feel when I'm with you, I'm so happy. But when I'm away from you, I feel so much sadness and so lonely. And so he said, who is in your heart? So she said, Paramatma. Gurudev said, and she said, Krishna. And more, Srimati Radhika. Right? Gurudev's laughing. Oh. And then who else? Lalita Vishaka Astasakhi. And more. Rupa Manjari, Rati Manjari, Gaur Nityananda Prabhu, everyone. And who else? You, Gurudev, you and more, Guru Sakhi and Srila Prabhupada, and then more and more and more. The cows, the peacocks, the monkeys. He made her list everyone. And finally she said, all of Vrindavan. And he said, yes. Then how can you say that you are alone? When all of that is there within your heart, how can you feel alone? It's like inconceivable. How can you feel that? And so from those sweet moments of Gurudev giving us, and I was reflecting on how amazing it was that suddenly when Gurudev came into our lives, he opened our whole lives to like all this ocean of pure devotees that I, had no idea about. Suddenly, Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Pramod Puri Maharaj, all of our Gaudiya Vaishnavacharyas, how he would honor them and remember them with so much love and so much relationship on their appearance days and disappearance days, and how he taught us also to remember and worship them on their auspicious days and build relationship with all of these magnanimous personalities. And reminds me of this quote by Srila Sridhar Maharaj, where he says that actually in this material world, our success is the measure of how much name, fame, wealth, status we have in society. But in the spiritual world, our success is measured by how many guardians we have. And Tulsi Maharani, Yamuna Devi, Purnamasi Yogamaya, Gopishwar Mahadev, our whole Guru Parampara. So Gurudev gave us connection to all these personalities and relationship to all of them. And especially, like through saying that to my mom, I always remember that. So it was such a beautiful, beautiful time that first year in New Braj with Gurudev. Can never forget how sweet, how much love and affection he carried for everyone, how much deep, unconditional concern, genuine, he had that each person was growing in bhakti. And he would say, I have not come here to collect anything from you. There's nothing that you could offer me. Just bring your heart on a golden plate and let me offer that to Radha and Krishna. And so he was always speaking in this way, and everyone was always crying. See Gurudev crying, Harikatha crying. And then Gurudev would say, why weeping? He would say the sweetest things and then go, why weeping? Why crying? And just bringing everyone to that, that mood of the Brajavasis, trying to install that mood of the Brajavasis in everyone's hearts. And he would speak all these topics, Prahlad Charita, Guru Tattva, Vaishnav Tattva, Ramananda Roy Samvad, so many things. And then he would always speak on Krishna's sweet pastimes in Vrindavan. And the love of the Brajabasis and the gopis. And he would say, if I don't speak about this, then everything is zero. So he was always wanting to share these moods, these deep moods. And then after that, we went to Salt Spring Island. And I was also remembering how we did this play for Gurudev, and it was like the final history of how Krishna is coming back to Vrindavan and meeting with all the Brajabasis and meeting with Srimati Radhika, and Srimati Radhika is in an ocean of separation and burning in the fire of separation. And Gurudev was watching this drama play and he was crying so much, weeping. And he would always weep during the Ram plays of Ramayana and the different drama plays that we would do. He would always cry and say, thank you for making me cry. And I was just reflecting on how he was just doing that so that we could, we could witness. It's not like we're just like ordinary people, but he was giving us an opportunity when we would sing these kirtans for him, and his eyes would be closed and he would be so absorbed in the kirtans and wanting specific kirtans, implanting them like almost like mantras in our hearts, like an extension of our mantras. And every single sloka that Gurudev would speak during Katha, we can think of these as mantras actually. Hearing Gurudev's sound vibration, speaking these slokas, they're like mantras that he's giving us, and they contain they contain our Ishtadev there. And through chanting them and hearing them and remembering them, gradually they become like friends and they reveal themselves. So I remember just how Gurudev would cry during these plays. And then just recently I was reading in the Jagannath Rath Yatra book how Gurudev said these leelas, this leela cannot be found anywhere. It is found only in the heart of Rasik Vaishnavas. And what an amazing thing that is, that something that is found in the heart of Rasik Vaishnavas could be shared, like even though I have so many holes and there's no container to be able to contain that impression, that marking that Gurudev was making on everyone through sharing these pastimes and these words. He would bring everyone to Vrindavan during Kartik and to Navadvip Parikrama. Every year he wanted everyone to come, and then we would go and he would sit there in the dust just like everyone else, so humble, sitting under Tamal tree, Kadamba tree. And you can see sometimes he would ask Krishnadas Prabhu or other Vaishnavas to sing. You can see in the videos how someone is singing Choti Si Kishori. It's like a Hindi kirtan, and sometimes it's like, upbeat and happy mood, but Gurudev is sitting in the dust of Vrindavan and hearing Choti Si Kishori, and he's just crying and crying. And when you see that, eventually you're like, what is he tasting? Just by seeing him, you don't have to manifest the greed, just by seeing Gurudev. I remember one time we were sitting in the airport and I was sitting near Gurudev and I said to him, Gurudev, I have no taste for Harinam. Every time I start chanting, I fall asleep. And Gurudev looked very surprised and he said, what? You sleep? What? And he started chuckling and laughing. And he said, how is it possible? He said, if I kept millions and millions of dollars for you in one chest and put it in Badger, would you sleep? And I said, no, right? No, definitely not. And then he told the story of Sanatan Goswami and the Chintamani stone, and then um, other instructions about Harinam, how Harinam, how Krishna's names are so powerful, how once, he says, once you realize that these names contain all the wealth and all of existence and anything you could ever hope for and dream for, all the wealth, all of his names, all his forms, all the qualities and pastimes are in these names, then you will be able to do like me. And he closed his eyes. Hare Krishna. And when Gurudev, closed his eyes, it was like, where did he just go? Then he would open his eyes and be like back to earth. But for that split second, when he closes his eyes, it's so deep and so profound to witness, like his absorption and the depth of his heart and his moods. And he said, so how can you sleep, right? And this often he would say that this Harinam, this is just like our umbilical cord to Gurudev. I was reading, an old article by Vishaka Didi, and he was instructing her on bhajan and separation from Guru. And we said, what is the first lesson in bhajan and separation from Guru? The first lesson in bhajan and separation from Guru is that you have to believe that my Gurudev loves me more than anyone else could ever love me. My Gurudev loves me so much, and he will never ever leave me. Because only if you have that feeling can you talk to him. Only if you have that intimacy can you pray to him, can you beg for his mercy. And then the second lesson, he said, is that with that mood, we should think that we are so deeply in the heart of Gurudev, and Gurudev is so deeply in our hearts, that there's no separation at all, right? That's the meeting and separation, the two sides of the same coin, that there's no separation at all. And that how do we access is just like if a child is in the womb of their mother, the mother is nurturing the child through the umbilical cord. All of the nutrients and the nourishment are coming directly there. So in the same way, all of the nutrients that our Harinam is like our umbilical cord to Gurudev, and all the nutrients and all the water and sunlight and everything that we need to nurture our creeper of bhakti is all there through chanting. And this is not coming out of my own realization. Again, I need to practice this, but these are Gurudev's words, and I pray to realize them, because that is the key to connecting with him. And then he said, and when you're chanting in this mood, he chanted one round with all the devotees present there, and he said, when you're chanting in this mood, then Gurudev will manifest while you're chanting your Harinam, and he'll begin to instruct you, and he'll begin to instruct you on bhajan if you're chanting in this way. So Gurudev, he wanted this for everyone. He wanted this for everyone. He wanted all of us to experience he wanted us to attain ruchi in this life, such a high, tall order. But he wanted everyone to do bhajan. And he was always pushing for that. He would say, just, for 1 month, you're coming for Kartik. Leave behind your opulent life and your nice big beds and your fine rice, and come with me to Vrindavan. Come to these places and weep in this mood. If you're going to all these places, but you're not feeling any separation mood from Krishna, then everything is in vain. But it's so high. How can we experience that separation from Krishna when we haven't even seen him, when we haven't seen his beauty and mercy and all of that. And so he says, this quote, Gurudev says, we should begin feeling this mood of separation with Guru and Vaishnavas. If we have some separation from them, then there is a chance that someday we can experience the fire of separation from Srimati Radhika. If we can weep for our spiritual master and those Vaishnavas who have given us even slight mercy, then by their mercy we can enter the path leading to the mood of separation from Srimati Radhika. Then feeling of this separation will be, then feeling this separation, there will be not a trace left of any material emotion. There will only be constant weeping. Weeping like this is the essence of all our religious principles. One day, by the mercy of those who sincerely feel the mood of separation, and by the grace of our Gurudev, we will have realization of this fact. This is our real prayer. And while praying, our mood should be, Tava nama grihane bhavishyati. When will I weep while chanting Harinam and remembering these pastimes? Those who are most fortunate can lament and weep with these moods and experience them. So I love how Gurudev says, weeping like this is the essence of our religious principles. Because we can complicate things with our minds. We can think, oh, I don't know so much Tattva Siddhanta, oh, I'm not so surrendered, I'm not this. But then Gurudev made it so simple. He said, why have I come? And then he would say, just like the gopis are cleaning their homes, singing Govinda Damo Daramadhaveti, Govinda Damo Daramadhaveti. So you'd say, I've come for this thing. It's whatever you may be doing, wherever you may be, whatever's happening in your life, hold on to these moods. And so he gave that to everyone in such an accessible way. He gave that to everyone in such an accessible way, and gave everyone so much hope that, you know, wherever they were, like, don't be hopeless. Okay, now you're leaving. Don't leave empty-handed. Take something with you from this experience. Take something with you that will nourish and nurture your bhakti. So I was remembering, and it all starts through our relationship with Gurudev. You know, through our relationship with Gurudev, we have the opportunity to feel separation from Guru, to feel the excitement of meeting, to be able to serve him, to be under guidance. I remember in Navadvip, when I took Diksha, 2014 or 15, it was the year of that big storm in Navadvip Dham. We were just outside, the temple hadn't been built yet, and there was a big pandal, and we had Gaur Purnima under the golden moon, so beautiful. And Gurudev was there, he was dancing, he was so happy, he was dancing, the moon was shining, there were so many obstacles that parikrama. And he said, anyone who's attended this Navadvip parikrama, even if they were sleeping the whole time, I'm giving them the benediction that whole life they are Gaur Nityananda Prabhu's responsibility, and whole life they are my responsibility. It was so sweet. So Gurudev is taking everyone into his home, into his hands, into his family. And that year, I also got Diksha on Gaur Purnim. And when I asked Gurudev for Diksha, actually, it's a funny story. A few years before that, when I was like maybe 11 in San Diego. I wanted Diksha, but I didn't tell anyone. But I wanted it just because I thought it looked really cool to like sit there with your hand there and close your eyes. And I just thought everybody else was having it, and I thought it looked really neat, and I wanted it too. It was like that kind of a thing. And so I remember we were sitting there in class, and suddenly he says into the microphone in the middle of class, "Where is the daughter of Manjari?" And then he looks at me and says, "I heard you want Diksha?" It was completely random in the middle of class, like unrelated to the topic of the Harikatha or anything. "I heard you want Diksha." And then I went, "Yes, Gurudev." And he goes, "You should be more qualified." The first, you should be more qualified, then I will give you. Then a few years later, I went and I asked him, he said, "Can you maintain?" And I said, "By your mercy." He said, "My mercy is there, but you have to be strong. Can you maintain?" Then I came, and my mom helped me prepare a really big, beautiful plate of chandan and garlands and incense and ghee lamp. And we rehearsed the whole thing in over and over again. I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to be different, but we rehearsed the whole thing, how I was going to go in there and offer the incense and then do the ghee lamp and put the chandan and then put the garland. And Gurudev was so happy. He told everyone, "You should try to do like this." So he was really, really happy. That was all my mom's mercy for helping me with that. But I was putting the chandan on Gurudev, and I wouldn't stop. I just wanted to keep doing it. and then Gurudev said, it was really sweet. He showed me how to chant the mantras, and he said, looked at me and he said, "Oh," he said, "I have so many relationships with you. So many." He said, "First, you are directly my dear darling daughter. And you are my granddaughter." And more like that. So many, right? Mahaprabhu Leela, Vrindavan Leela, so many different kinds of relationships, which Gurudev is installing all of that, all of those relationships in our hearts when he gives us our mantras. Through our mantras, all of that sambandha and all of that connection is there. And so he was sweetly reminding me of that there's so much to be discovered at every moment, and so much relationship to be uncovered through the chanting of our mantras, which he was giving us. That was really special. And then I remember it was amazing. Gurudev, in his final, when was it? Oh no, okay. Before that, I wanted to share one more story, and then I'll remember that. But I was remembering how we were in Govardhan one year, and Gurudev was sitting on the Vyasasan, and it was a really special day. It was like Deepavali or Anakut, and Gurudev was singing the whole Govardhan Ashtakam. He sung from start to finish the entire Ashtakam. And it was really amazing. He said, "Today, I want all of you to go to Govardhan and make any prayer at his lotus feet." He said, "Giriraj is so merciful. He can fulfill any desire of yours. So be very careful what you pray for." He said, "You can pray for anything, a nice house, nice wife, nice husband, so many things, and Giriraj will give you whatever you desire. So be very careful." He said, "He can give you anything. He can give you Krishna Prem. Even he can give you Radha Dasyam, but he'll have to go home and think for a few days. So be cautious. You should pray how the Brajabasis pray for the well-being of Krishna, for the happiness of Krishna, for the long life of Krishna." teaching us how to pray so sweetly. And then he said, so go now and make any prayer. And so I remember I went to Govardhan. I wrote a letter, and I didn't share this with anyone, but I went and I prayed to Giriraj, because it was one of those kartiks when I kept doing the thing, Gurudev's walking, and I go right in front of him and try to corner him into talking to me, and he's ignoring me, and then he keeps walking, and then I do it again and again and again, and he's completely ignoring me. And so I prayed to Giriraj, even after that whole wonderful class Gurudev gave about having the right prayers. I just prayed that I wanted to sing for Gurudev. I was like, I haven't sang for him in a long time. I just want to sing for him. So Gurudev was walking back from his walk, and he saw me, and he came right up to me and he said, oh, I heard you want to sing for me? And I looked at him and I went, you heard? And he said, yes, I heard. So you should be ready. Like that. I thought, how amazing is it that Gurudev and Giriraj Govardhan and Yamuna and all these personalities are in constant communication. It's like you pray to one of them, you're praying to all of them, right? They're in constant communication with each other. And so I thought that was really sweet that he heard my prayers, and he was reciprocating in such a sweet way. He always said that wherever we are in the Dham, we should always have this one prayer. Every time we touch our head to the dust, every time we touch our head to any tree in Vrindavan, we should pray with this mood. Vishaya chadiya kabe shuddha habiman kabe hamahera Shri Vrindavan. When will my thirst for material enjoyment disappear so that my mind becomes pure, and in this way I will be able to behold Vrindavan. So even though, every step of the way Gurudev was teaching us how to pray, how do we go to these places, how do we serve the Brajavasis, how can we, he restored so many places in Vrindavan. He restored Kaliyadaha and I think Pavan Sarovar and Radha Kund, so many. It was very dear to his heart, and all the Brajavasis and all the sadhus in all of Vrindavan respected Gurudev so much, because Gurudev, he was, I think I was listening to Kamala from the Ganga Matas recently about how Gurudev took risks. I thought that's so true. Gurudev took so many risks, and he put his whole life and heart. He faced so much adversity for all of us. Like he would say, I was happy doing bhajan in Vrindavan. Why did I come? Because I heard hearts crying. So he heard hearts crying, and he came from so far. And I remember in 2001, actually, he gave a class, I think it's called A Very Critical Stage. And he said, I don't think I'm going to continue coming anymore, because I'm coming just like with a basket of fruits, of very sweet fruits, very sweet jewels. He's coming to our doorsteps and giving so much, but no one is receiving what he's giving. So I remember some of that heavy Harikatha where he was saying, why am I continuing to come if you all are not taking what I'm giving? And so even though he was very soft, he was also very strict and very, he really wanted everyone to be very strong and mature in this life. No more, he's turning the fan off. He's not coming to keep the fan going. He's coming to, chop, chop, chop. He wants to end it now, this birth. And that was really clear. He was really wanting that we give, I remember one time, I think somebody came to Gurudev and said, they were complaining about their wife or their marriage or something. And and husband was complaining about his wife. Gurudev looks at him and he goes, "Don't you understand? You don't have what she wants. You don't have what she's looking for," right? Because he wanted to establish that who are we all looking for? Only Krishna. Who's our maintainer and protector? Only Krishna. Is constantly really strong. I was in Vrindavan one time and he said, I wanted to stay there in Vrindavan. I didn't want to come back and go to school. And oftentimes he would tell me to finish my education. In fact, the last time when I saw him at my grandparents' house in 2010, he said, "Finish your education, then you will come to my university," which is really sweet to reflect on the way things panned out after I finished university. But he said, when I was in Vrindavan, he said, "You should go back, finish your university." And he said, and I said, "But Gurudev, I want to follow you. I want to be in the school of Rupa Goswami and so many things." And he said, "No, you should become very strong, very steady, very independent." And he said, "And you should never depend on any man." Very strong. I want that you should never depend on anyone. And so he was always encouraging his daughters to be very strong, to preach, to study, and to be fixed. And same for his brahmacharis and for everyone, encouraging them to be very, very strong. I'm just curious how much time I have left, Manini, Didi.
I knew you were, I actually had a feeling you were asking that. You have about 13 minutes.
Okay, great, perfect. So, Gurudev was so sweet, so sweet. And in his last year that he was in New Braj, and he spoke the most profound and heart-wrenching Harikatha. He started from the very first day, because he always said that no matter what happens, I'll never stop coming to New Braj. I'll always come to New Braj. And he also said, the Harikatha that I've spoken here in New Braj, I haven't spoken anywhere else in the world. And so he said that this is my last year, it's my final year that I'm going to be here. And he spoke about how Krishna left Vrindavan and how he never returned, how he went to Mathura and he never returned, but he promised that he would return within a few days. And so how is it that Krishna is Satya Sankalpa? And he began to explain the whole Leela about how Nanda Maharaj is waiting and how he's waiting for Krishna and Balaram to come. And after killing Kamsa, the Mathura Vasis are holding Krishna and Balaram. No, you're the son of Devaki, you're the son of Vasudev. And finally they go, and according to Bhagavatam, Nanda Maharaj returns, they give their ornaments and Nanda Maharaj returns to Vrindavan and Krishna and Balaram stay in Mathura. But then Gurudev starts to explain about the different prakoshts and how in one form they went back and in one form they stayed there. And everyone is crying and thinking, why is Gurudev speaking this Harikatha? There was so much unease the whole festival. Like, why is Gurudev speaking these things? And in a similar way, he was really, like I said, he was always giving the essence, right to the essence. The last class that he gave in Los Angeles, the last words he spoke in a public class in his last tour was, read Bhagavatam, speak Bhagavatam, and become Bhagavat. Boom. Everyone spoke. And then Gurudev spoke for like a few minutes. And he shared like the essence of everything. Read Bhagavatam, speak Bhagavatam, and become Bhagavat. These were his words. And he was staying at my grandparents' house at that time. He stayed for, I guess, nearly like 3 weeks. It was like almost a month that he was there. And I remember going into his room in the morning and seeing how all the verses of Srimad Bhagavatam were marked. The verses that he was reading, as the pages were like crumbly, and you could tell that he had, God knows how long he had that Bhagavatam, but he would worship the verses with chandan and tulsi and flowers and have them marking the different verses with so much love, like they're his vigraha. And it was so amazing to see that. And then he would always come down and sunbathe, and then the few devotees that were there, he was always asking for questions. So one day I asked him, I said, Gurudev, if the gopis loved Krishna so much, and Krishna was right in Mathura, and Vrindavan was so close, then why didn't they just go and forcibly bring Krishna back to Vrindavan? They could have just gone there and taken, it's just a bullock cart ride away. You know, why was it so hard for they could have at least gone and seen him, right? And then Gurudev, he was just in this mood, and he said, yes, why they did not do. Why they did not do. I expected that he was going to give me some philosophical answer, but no, he just said, why they did not do. And then he said, now you must do. You should do. You should bring Krishna back to Vrindavan. And that was the essence, right? Because that's our whole mood. You know, Gurudev would give these songs like Shri Krishna Virahe. Our whole mood, the essence of everything we're doing is to unite Radha and Krishna, to see Radha and Krishna together. That is like the sum and substance of everything. And then, you know, and then Gurudev, after that, he relished and experienced all of these moods, being in Jagannath Puri, leaving in Jagannath Puri, and, you know, starting that process of like stirring those moods of separation that are so high that we can't even imagine, you know, to feel that from him. When we feel that from him, then it's a very intense process of like our anarthas actually burning away, and the fire of all of our different kleshas and everything just being burnt to ash just by the process of like remembering Gurudev. And so he spoke in this way so beautifully in New Braj, reminding us. And I wanted to, if there's a little time, I wanted to actually end with the last kirtan that he asked me to sing in New Braj. I was singing something else. I started to sing something else, and he stopped that kirtan and he said, no, sing this kirtan, Maniro Lagina. So
Yes,
do I
there's
have time for that? Okay.
Yes, you do. Haribol.
So if anybody wants the words, to look up the words, it's you can find it on, I'm just going to put the link in the chat. Is there a chat?
Yes, there is. Do you see it's next to
Oh,
participant?
right.
Bottom? Yes.
So here's the chat for the song.
So it's on KK Songs, Didi?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Haribol.
And one other thing I wanted to say is every time when I would ask Gurudev what to sing, I always wanted to sing O He Vaishnav Thakur or Gurudev Kripa Bindu Diya. And he would always say, no, highest song of Srimati Radhika, like Ramani Shiromani Varaja Vipine. He always wanted us to sing these songs. Oh. श्यामा बिना श्याम बिना मनेरो लागे ना ओ मनेरो लागे ना सखीरी मेरो श्याम बिना मनेरो लागे ना सुनी सुनी लागे सारी ब्रज की नगरी सुनी सुनी लागे सारी ब्रज की नगरी कुंज गलिनी सुनी श्याम बिना मनेरो लागे ना ओ मनेरो लागे ना सखीरी मेरो श्याम बिना मनेरो लागे ना कौन सुनावे मोहे मीठी मीठी बांसुरी कौन सुनावे मोहे मीठी मीठी बांसुरी कौन नचावे मोहे श्याम बिना मनेरो लागे ना ओ मनेरो लागे ना सखीरी मेरो श्याम बिना मनेरो लागे ना ग्वाल बाल सब तरफ रहे ग्वाल बाल सब तरफ रहे तृण नहीं तोरे गावे श्याम बिना मनेरो लागे ना ओ मनेरो लागे ना सखीरी मेरो श्याम बिना मनेरो लागे ना पनिया भरन जब जाओ जमुना पे पनिया भरन जब जाओ जमुना पे पन घट सुनो लागे श्याम बिना मनेरो लागे ना ओ मनेरो लागे ना सखीरी मेरो श्याम बिना मनेरो लागे ना गिरिधरी मोसे ऋतुरे सवरिया गिरिधरी was Shamrani Didi. She just came in. She's here. Can I read the meaning real quick?
Please do.
Okay. Radha is telling her. So Gurudev would often sing. He would start to sing this during Harikatha as well as the Australian tune when he was describing the separation of the gopis after Krishna went to Mathura. He loved this so much, this song. So Radha is telling her Sakhis, my mind is very unhappy because Shyam is not here. The whole village of Braj is empty. Without Shyam, the kunjas and lanes are empty. Who will play the flute so sweetly? Without Shyam here, who will inspire us to dance? Without Shyam, all the cowherd boys are restless and the cows are not eating grass. I go to Yamuna to take water, but without Shyam, the Panaghatha, where the villagers drew their water, is empty. Perhaps Giridhari is in a sulky mood. If I don't see you for 1 second, I go mad and restless. Without Shyam, my mind is not interested in anything. So this was like the last day of, this was the final day of the festival. And that same day we did the drama play of the Beggar of Prem, and where Krishna disguises himself and goes to Srimati Radhika, and in like the dress of like a renunciate. And then at the end of the play, Gurudeva was crying and he said, Madhurena Samapayat. Those are like his last words on that final day of the festival. And then after that, he went to Ojai and to LA, and that was where he spoke that katha about speak Bhagavatam, hear Bhagavatam, and become Bhagavat. And these were his final instructions. And so it's a very deep topic. It's totally above my adhikar, and I have no realization of any of these things, but I just pray that somehow I can stay close to Gurudev's Rasik Vaishnav and just keep soaking up their moods and have a chance to serve them, because that is where Gurudev's moods and hearts are resting. And I just really thank you for the opportunity to remember Srila Gurudev and be like a little baby reciting memories. Gugu Gaga. Panchakalpatarubhescha kripa sindhubhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.
Wow. Radhika, that was, first of all, so glorious. And the mood when you were giving this Pushpanjali, I mean, I could feel Gurudev.
Can you not? Because Shamrani Didi is here and it feels so weird. Please just don't. Just save it. Please.
What is that, Shamrani Didi? Dandavats, Didi. So wonderful.
No, stop. Okay. No, please.
And her grandparents traveled around the world with Prabhupada. And her mother, when she was a little 5-year-old, she would go on a morning walk with Prabhupada, and Prabhupada would hold her hand.
Oh my God. That is just, it was.
No, not at all. Not at all.
No, it was so rich and so full that I cannot even scratch the surface of conveying what you gave us today, just with the mood and with the katha. Just a couple of things that I just want to call out that I actually never heard exactly this way before. One was just the way you described how Gurudev said Harinam, was like this, contained everything to nourish our Bhakti Lata Bij, that this creeper, that was magnificent, about the way that he installed, this Abhiman, or really it's Sambandha and Abhiman, but that relationship and the relationships with the way that he spoke. And I loved when you were sharing that memory of your mom and how he was like, and who else is there? And all of Vrindavan is like listing Sri Ganesh Dipika practically, and then also in more, because I had heard someone else speak that too, about how, maybe it was actually Her Grace Shamarani might have said this, it's not like, is there room for Prabhupada and Gurudev, but it's like becoming a Vaishnava, aspiring Vaishnavas, our heart has to enlarge to add more. It's not either or, but and this one and more. And then the last thing, actually toward the end that you said, that was the essence, to hear Bhagavatam, speak Bhagavatam, and become Bhagavat. What a high calling, but I think that is ultimately the path that we're all on under Rupa Gosvami, under Rupa Manjari's leadership and guidance. And so thank you. This is one of those talks that I think I'll be re-listening to for quite a lot. And Yashodanandan, I don't know if there's anything else you'd like to maybe speak on this. So
well, I think it was ironic that Radhika talked about giving a goo gaga presentation, because I probably, in me responding, I think I'm the one who's going to go goo gaga, because you really did a beautiful service to Srila Gurudev. The first thing, everything you spoke about, Didi, reminded me of, you didn't actually say this, but it was implied, is that we're actually Guru conscious before we're Krishna conscious. And without Guru consciousness, we have no Krishna consciousness, we have no Radha Krishna consciousness. Actually, we have nothing. And the sublime way in which you developed and unpacked your relationship with Gurudev and your insights and connection relationship with him just rhymed with what I said before, which is that by you extolling on your own relationship with Gurudev, you help nourish my relationship with Gurudev, because you just reveal and highlight and emphasize and bring back into the core of my heart's memory all the things I remember about Srila Gurudev eternally. I loved what you said about when he asked you where you're from. That was fantastic. I'm from Goloka Vrindavan, say I'm from Goloka Vrindavan, because just that one statement, I am from Goloka, just those 5 words encapsulates all the infinite hope Gurudev gives us. Like, how can I deserve to be told by this personality that I am from Goloka Vrindavan? I mean, it's just so astonishing. It reminds me back in '97, there's a story I love to recount where Ananga Mohini, my ex-wife, and Budara and myself, we were getting some flack. I don't know about what. We'd probably have made some offenses, who knows, but Gurudev defended us in front of 250 devotees, and he said, oh, they're like sannyasis, which is, I mean, that's laughable now, let alone then. So the point is, Gurudev only saw us in our, what I would say is in our future. Actually, he always saw us in our ever-present present. He saw us in our transcendental reality, and that's the only thing that he was interested in. And you really brought that home, and then you beautifully also expanded on that and said, oh, there's so much in your heart, all these different relationships of Vrindavan, how can you be lonely? That's wonderful. And also what you said about he gave you all these relationships, all these Mahabhagavats, is totally true. And actually, that's our Mercy Grace Leela. I don't know if you're aware of our Mercy Grace Leela program that we do twice a week. Shamarani Didi kindly's been speaking on it, where we honor basically it goes from Kartik one year to Kartik the next year. And every week we do one program honoring all the acharyas and one program on the Leelas of Navadvip and Vrindavan. But it means that we do end up having and connecting in a relationship with all of those personalities. But those personalities are so rich in our hearts because Gurudev has given us that access. He's given us that relationship. So what it brought home to me is that he's the master weaver of transcendental relationships in our hearts. He's weaving these relationships in our heart. This is not about, ultimately, this is not about, I mean, Siddhanta is important, but all of this is about the relationships and how you emphasize the mood. And then you built up at the end to say, yes, because our only goal is to try to facilitate the union of Radha and Krishna with Kinkaris. So I know Gurudev is very, very happy with you, Radhika. Very proud of you. And I'm sure Shamarani is as well. However embarrassed you may be, you did a beautiful seva. So well done. And I hope, Didi, that during Kartik, I hope you're going to do plenty of kirtan for us and also some speaking for the Kartik program. Yeah?